'cause I'll do something good today.
Hey y'all, welcome to Dad Does Dinner. My name is Chase, and today we're going to start the process of making homemade bacon. If you've never had homemade bacon, it is luscious, it is flavorful, and very versatile. Lots of stuff you could do with this. But you know, homemade bacon, it really tastes like salty, sweet, smoky pork. It's a little bit different than the store-bought bacon flavor that we're used to, but it's different in a good way. It didn't have that really strong bacony flavor. Instead, it's replaced with all the good ingredients that you put in, and I'm telling you, it's awesome. So this is an 11-day process. If you don't have the full 11 days, you can make this in little as 7 days. But the longer you let your pork belly cure, the more flavor you're going to have into it. So start with a pork belly. Let you get a good look at this. Now, pork belly has gotten really popular. These are easy to find in your local grocery store. And there should be a good selection there. It's not very expensive, and this one's about 5 pounds. Anything from 2 pounds to 5 pounds will work, okay? So what we have here, we've got some grade A maple syrup. When you use maple syrup, make sure you're using the real stuff. Don't get out there and buy a bottle of log cabin syrup that's nothing but chemicals and has really changed the way that we think of maple syrup. It's got that real strong kind of artificial mapley flavor, and I shouldn't pick on log cabin. This is any artificially flavored syrup that's out there. Maple syrup, pure maple syrup, go ahead, pay the extra money. It's better for you, and it tastes better. So we're going to take a half cup of that, okay? And then we're going to combine that with 3 tablespoons of kosher salt. Now you can find varying recipes for this on the interwebs, and the first couple times I made this, it called for more salt than this, and I found that the bacon was just too salty. So 3 tablespoons is good. You don't want too much salt, you don't want too much sugar. Too much sugar, your bacon's gonna burn as you cook it around the edges, and we don't want it to burn. We want that, G-bad, golden brown and delicious on the edges. The cool thing about homemade bacon is you can really tailor it to your own flavors. Next, we're going to add some black pepper. This recipe calls for 1.5 teaspoons of black pepper. I'm going to use a little bit more. I like my bacon peppery, so we're just going to go with 2 healthy teaspoons of this. And then finally, now this is an optional step, I'm going to put in 1/2 teaspoon of curing salt. Curing salt enhances the flavor just a little bit, but mainly is used to preserve meat. Now I want to mix this thoroughly. All right, so you want to slather this mixture all over your meat the best you can, okay? And get it on the sides too. The next step is to place this into a Ziploc bag. Do yourself a favor, go buy some 2-gallon Ziploc bags like I didn't do. This barely fits in a 1-gallon bag, and then I'm gonna have to slide another bag over that. All right, so I got this bagged up, and now we're gonna put it in the refrigerator. So into the fridge it goes. We're lucky enough to have a garage refrigerator for projects like this. So that's gonna go in the refrigerator for 10 days. And every day I'm going to flip it over to ensure even seasoning. So once a day, flip that pork belly over. All right, I will see you in 10 days. Hey y'all, welcome back. So my pork belly has been in the fridge for 10 days, and every day I turned it over to make sure all those flavors and all those juices evenly get into the bacon. This is going to be really flavorful. A little bit of sweet, a little salt, a little smoke. It's going to be just great. So my next step is I'm going to pull this carefully out of the bag, hopefully without making a mess. And I'm going to give it a little rinse, and then I'm going to pat it dry. So I rinsed it. It just kind of has a little bit of a slimy texture after it's been sitting there for 10 days. And now I'm just going to pat it dry. And what I'm going to do is on this rack, I'm going to leave it uncovered in the refrigerator overnight. This will help it release even more of that moisture, kind of give it a brief little dry aging. And what this does, and what this does, it helps firm it up a little bit and helps the overall texture of the bacon. So we did 10 days in the fridge with the maple syrup, the salt, the pepper, and the curing salt. And now we got one more night in the fridge, let it firm up just a little bit, and then tomorrow we'll throw this on the smoker. I'll tell you what, bacon really excites me. There's just something about, I don't know, the artisanship, the craftsmanship of doing it all yourself. And when I open that bag and I smell that maple syrup and got a little whiff of that pepper, it just really excites me. So anyway, tomorrow, smoking meat, and that even excites me more. Oh, by the way, if you're not lucky enough to have a second refrigerator in your garage with plenty of room to do stuff like this, make room in your crowded fridge that's in your kitchen, put this in it, cover it with cheesecloth, and that will help keep it from mingling with any other foods that are in there. And the cheesecloth breathes nicely, and you'll still accomplish what you want to accomplish. All right, the pork belly's been sitting in the fridge overnight. Definitely firmed up some. I want to pull it out and let it sit out for about an hour, try to get the chill off of it. Just did my morning swim. You know, when I started swimming a couple of weeks ago, and I started swimming for exercise, it was easier on my joints than the elliptical machine. You know, the whole goal was first not to drown, and then second not to vomit in the pool. A couple of weeks into it, I'm doing much better. I'm a regular Michael Phelps, or maybe at least his doughy brother. And while that's sitting out, I'm gonna go ahead and get the fire going. I'm gonna smoke this belly and make this bacon with pecan wood. A lot of people use some kind of fruit wood, mainly apple wood. Apple wood gives a nice light smoke. I like just a little heavier smoke, and that's why I'm gonna use the pecan wood. For this pork belly, we want a low temperature smoke, almost even a cold smoke. Really want to keep it between 170 degrees and 200 degrees. If it kind of sneaks up to 210, you're all right, but anything past that, and that's not gonna give you the results that you want. So 200 degrees or a little bit below, probably for 3 to 4 hours. It's done when it's done. We're looking for an internal temperature of 140 degrees, and as soon as it hits 140, we're gonna pull it off the smoker. Got my fire going, good bed of coals. Onto the smoker we go. It's really a nice morning in the Houston area. The humidity's down for us. It may still be a little high for you, Mike, but humidity's down. It's nice and cool. Sitting out here on my back porch, smelling the smoke of the barbecue, listening to the birds chirp. Really a good time to be grateful. You know, as I've gotten older, I've really learned to appreciate mornings. You know, my younger days, it was sleep till the absolute last minute and jump out of bed and rush to get ready and get to wherever I'm going. And now that I've gotten older, I've just learned to appreciate the mornings. I get up early, walk my dog, get to the gym. I know that y'all noticed I've been working out. Welcome to the gun show. Oh yeah. And anyway, a group of us from my service organization, we generally talk on the phone in the morning. So between like 6 and 9, I'm talking to 2, 3, sometimes 4 guys. And, you know, it's just a great way to start my morning, find some gratitude, and get rolling. Also drink my coffee. Peyton let me know that another friend of his, Cass, has been watching Dad Does Dinner from the beginning. It just really excites me that he's got a couple of friends that actually pay attention to this and enjoy it. So shout out to you, buddy. It's 8 o'clock right now, and I really hope that pork belly's done at 11. I got somewhere to be at noon. So, but you can't rush it. You can't force it. Just keep an eye on that fire. Keep that temperature low. And be patient as you're making the bacon. Wow, take a look at this. We have reached our temperature, 140 degrees. Now that our bacon's done, we require, yes, even more patience. This is gonna go in my refrigerator overnight. That'll help first cool it and then help improve the texture of it one more time just to get a little more firm, and it will make it much easier for slicing. Now, if you just can't wait the refrigerator for at least 4 hours, then you can cut off a couple of slices and do whatever you want to do with it. Overnight is best, and so that's where we'll go. And we're back. We're ready to slice up our bacon and make some awesome bacon treats. Now, just to recap, we have seasoned our bacon, put it in our Ziploc bag, and let it stay in the refrigerator for 10 days. And we're flipping that every day just to make sure it gets seasoned evenly. Pulled that out of the fridge, left it uncovered overnight in the fridge to help firm it up a little bit. Threw it on the smoker for a couple hours till it reached 140 degrees. When that was done, back in the fridge for another night to firm it up even more and get the texture on it just right. Yeah, it's a long process, but believe me, it's worth it. Now, what I did then, I knew I was leaving town, and I used my vacuum sealer and sealed up that bacon. It's been in the fridge for a couple of weeks. Have no fears. It will be just fine. Remember, I smoked this. I used salt in the brine. I used that pink salt, which is also a preservative as well as a flavoring. And so really no chance of this going bad. I've kept bacon in the fridge for up to a month. Don't quote me on that because I don't want the FDA to come knocking at my door. So at this point, I'm going to use my meat slicer. I'm going to slice it up, and then I will freeze a good bit of this, and some of it we're going to cook today. These meat slicers are fantastic for things like this. I've also used it to shave meat really thin if I wanted it like that for a sandwich. Of course, if you wanted to buy your lunch meat whole and slice it up yourself or do custom cuts, it's great for that too. However, if you don't want to invest in a slicer like this, which is only around 70 bucks, you know, this works fine just cutting it with a knife. Anyway, we'll make short work of this bacon. You just turn it on and slide it through. So you see, make quick work of that. And we got some nice thick slices of bacon. I do like to cut it a little on the thick side. Makes it just a little more toothsome and makes it better for things like candied bacon or like we're gonna do today, a hot honey and bourbon candied bacon. It is 4th of July weekend, so here we are Saturday, July 3rd, and I'm also gonna throw some ribs on the smoker. So that took about 5 minutes to get through that 4-ish pounds of bacon. It started out as a 5+ pound of pork belly, and after the brining and the cooking, lost about a pound of liquid that was in it. So we got about 4 pounds of bacon here. So I'm just making little freezer packs and just lining them up. Get them so they'll fit into the Ziploc bag, and then we'll stick them in the freezer for later use. Of course, I got to give a shout out to my buddy Mike and his crew at One Arm Brewing and Barbecue in San Angelo, Texas. One Arm Brew Barbecue is home of the all-you-can-eat endless sausage platter. I have Mike to thank for the recipe that I'm going to borrow from today for the hot honey bourbon brown sugar glazed bacon that we are going to make. He watches Sam the Cookie Guy a lot, who's really good. In fact, he's just like me. Just his production values are just a little bit higher, but he's lots of fun to watch. He's funny and does some really good cooking. And Mike sent me his recipe for this, so pretty excited about that. Of course, a shout out to Super Nate and Emmy, my super fans, and their baby Theo, who at 3.5 months old is the size of your typical 3-year-old at this time. He is a big, big baby. Ryan, say hello to you, Ryan, who never misses an episode. And y'all tell your friends, like and subscribe. I was giving blood the other day and ran into a person who also liked food, also liked cooking. I mentioned that I had a cooking channel, that I was famous on YouTube, and quickly picked up 3 subscribers, so I certainly appreciate that. Nikki and her crew at the Gulf Coast Blood Center. You know, life can really be stressful, and as we've learned this year, it can be really stressful. You know, this past week has just been especially stressful for me. There's nothing unmanageable, and in fact, if one thing happened, that'd be fine. If 2 things happened, oh my gosh, 3, and now we're kind of up to 4 things that have just made it seem all unmanageable. But I know that it's really not. I bet you can guess what helped me out. About the middle of the week last week, I got a text message from a friend saying she had a friend in need, just needed some stuff moved out of her attic and thrown away, and quickly about 6 of us got together, went, cleaned out her attic, got it done. And last night in a meeting of our service organization, she mentioned how grateful she was. Her friend mentioned how grateful she was. And my gosh, it's just, 6 of us came together. We had a hell of a time doing it because we laughed, we got the work done. And it really took a burden off of her plate. And, and I'm always reminded that no matter what I got going on in my life, somebody's got it worse. In fact, a friend of mine, he's kind of funny. He's one of those guys where if you cut your arm off with a chainsaw, he'd say something like, well, at least you got both of your legs. And he was the first one I called when I was having some stress, and certainly he said something like that. Of course, then I talked to another friend who had a little more sympathetic ear. Ended up, though, everything's going to be just fine. But, the point being, if you got something going on in your life, talk to somebody about it and get out there and help somebody. And gosh, it sure makes things seem a lot more manageable. So I end up with about a pound of bacon per pack. And it's in a Ziploc bag, which is much more convenient than those completely useless bacon packages that you find in the store. You know what I mean, the ones that are so annoying to open, and then once you get them open, you can't really seal them back up, so you got to put them in a Ziploc bag anyway. If you want a really good look at my garden, tune into Sugar Does Sweets. That's my wife's new channel. My wife's trying to capitalize on my fame and glory. But Sugar Does Sweets, it's all one word on YouTube. And her last episode featured everything we got going on in the garden and that flower garden that Millie's trying to destroy that you saw in my last episode. Last episode, the fried pork chop Sunday dinner episode, it's up to 14 views, so yeah. So lots of people watching it, learning how to fry up some pork chops, make some mashed potatoes. Oh my gosh, and my dog Millie is now up on the table trying to lick the slicer. Millie, stop. With Millie, we were doing a really good job at not giving her people food because my last dog, Tilly, she was people food obsessed, and that was my fault because I would always give her treats. Well, Millie, we decided not to give her treats, and it was doing fine. Dinner time would come, she'd kind of mill about the kitchen or whatnot. We'd sit down to eat, and sure, she'd kind of be interested in it, but it wasn't too bad. And then one time, Sawyer slipped her a little something off his plate, and boom, ever since then, food obsessed. In fact, the other day, when I was making my brisket mac and cheese, I had sliced up, about a pound of cheese to go into the recipe, and turned around for a second, came back, and Millie had eaten it all. That ended up being a $400 pound of cheese. So on my sheet pan with a baker's rack, and if you haven't noticed that's one of my favorite kitchen tools and you haven't been paying attention, just buy the best sheet pan you can afford, get a baker's rack to go in it. You will use it a lot. But I line that with parchment paper, very important step, because this is going to be sticky and it saves you a lot of cleanup later. I'm going to glaze most of these. A couple of these I'll just leave plain so we can sample and see how our bacon really turned out. Now you want to cook this at around 375. Now because I know my oven cooks a little bit hot and I don't want to cook this at too high of a temperature because it'll end up burning that glaze. I put it on 325 and I know that it'll cook everything probably somewhere in the 360 to 380 range, just depending on the cycle that the oven is on at the time. Remember, your oven doesn't just, you turn it on and boom, it's that temperature all the time. No, it heats things up. When it reaches that temperature, it cools back off, and that's how it cooks. So that's a good thing to know when you're using your oven. All right, so we're gonna have a couple of tablespoons of brown sugar in our glaze, and then a couple of tablespoons of hot honey. 1, 2. Now this is Mike's hot honey that I'm using here. My mother-in-law gave this to me. It was one of my Christmas stocking stuffers. Hot honey, it's all the rage right now. Easy to find. If you don't see it in your store, then get it on Amazon. Know that when you taste it on its own, it has kind of an unexpected flavor to it. You kind of wonder, do I really like this? But when you cook with it or add it to something like fried chicken, it really enhances the flavor, okay? It's got it sweet, a little bit of heat. I like it a lot. And now I'm going to use this vanilla bourbon extract. Now the recipe that Sam the Cooking Guy uses, it calls for equal parts hot honey, brown sugar, and bourbon. And well, we just don't keep bourbon in this house because, you know, if we did, I sure wouldn't waste it on cooking. Anyway, so I'm gonna use this bourbon vanilla extract. It's a pretty decent substitute. Now the ratio of substitution is about 1 teaspoon of extract to 5 teaspoons of bourbon. So I'm gonna use 1 and about a half teaspoon of this. Smells very vanilla-y with a little hint of bourbon to it. Kind of did a little research online. Actually, my buddy Mike did a little research online and sent me a link. Said vanilla is a good substitute for cooking with bourbon, and also there are bourbon extracts out there. I looked at my local HEB. They had this kind of combination of vanilla bourbon extract. I think it's gonna be great. Gotta thank my friend Ashley for giving me this measuring spoon, tablespoon on one side, teaspoon on the other side. She's kind of funky and groovy, and it's just perfect that she gave me this, which is also kind of funky and groovy. Okay, so we have that. We want to mix this up. You want that brown sugar, get all the lumps out. All right, so now we're going to take this and we're just going to paint our bacon. And you want to do this on both sides. All right, so I glazed 4 of them, just left 4 of them plain. Did that on both sides of each piece of bacon. And now I'm going to hit it with a good bit of cracked pepper. So this is going to be sweet, spicy, peppery. I took a taste of that glaze. It is super sweet, and you can taste a little bit of smokiness from that vanilla bourbon, and then that honey. It's more of a back end heat. I know that's Nate and Emmy's favorite. A little back end heat on that honey. So ready to go in the oven. Looks like this. It's gonna go in the oven, and when cooking this in the oven, it's kind of like Sam the Cooking Guy says. It's gonna be done when it's done. I'm guessing with the thickness of that bacon and me probably cook bacon it on the low side of 375, that's gonna take close to 30 minutes. I normally cook my bacon in the oven. It's a super simple way to do it. It's not messy. And normally when I do my bacon, just plain old bacon, it's 400 degrees for 20 minutes. Remember, we're cooking this a little bit lower. Oh, hello, Millie. Millie never barks. Remember, we are cooking this just a little bit lower so we don't burn that glaze. It took right at 30 minutes for our bacon to get done. Look at that color. It's just gorgeous, and man, does it smell good in here. I like my bacon a little on the chewy side. Actually, that's how everybody likes it around here. If you want your bacon a little bit crisper, then, you know, slice it a little bit thinner, cook it just a little bit longer. Do it however you like. I know Mama Q is probably horrified at all the clutter on my counter right now, and old PF Ron is just shaking his head saying, "Yes, OB, why don't you just clean it up?" Ron is an old school dad, and I'm sure he wakes up every morning, looks in the mirror, and wonder what he did to deserve the Q boys. I know I laugh a lot at the Q brothers' expense. Really, they are close friends of mine. In fact, last week we just went to an Astros game together, had a really good time. That's where I picked up this way too expensive Astros Hawaiian shirt. All right, let's give it a taste. First, we're going to try just the regular bacon without the glaze on it. It is so unbelievably good. Now, homemade bacon's got a different flavor than the bacon you get from the store. In fact, it doesn't have that signature flavor factory created bacony flavor that we've come to associate with bacon. You know, that signature smell and that signature taste that comes with bacon. This is more like salty, sweet, smoked pork. It's so much more complex of a flavor. Lots of more different notes, and you really get to taste all the flavorings that you put into it, and taste the meat itself. I just think it's dynamite, and we like it better around here than store-bought bacon. All right, now for the glazed bacon. Oh wow, that is amazing. First, you get that sweetness from the brown sugar and the honey, followed immediately by that kind of slow heat that's in that Mike's Hot Honey. And then you get this kind of whole aroma, this smokiness of that vanilla bourbon extract. And because we use that cracked black pepper, you got that pepperiness too. This is just dynamite. Wow. Woo! Well, I hope y'all have a happy 4th of July weekend. It's raining here in the Houston area. Hopefully tomorrow it'll clear up just enough so we can go to our 4th of July parties and enjoy the fireworks. Either way, I know I'm going to eat good. All right, y'all. Till next time, remember, do something good.
We can make a difference. All we have to do is try.